Hi everybody. This is Rich, and you are watching an Indie Plus production. So this adheres to the Indie Plus community standards, which you can find out about if you want to know more on indieplus.org. This most likely is not going to have anything that's objectionable. If anything, it may have a few slight curse words because we use adult language as adults, it seems. So this is a kind of a panel. It's a nice short little gift to you. Is our gamer gift guide, because we're coming into the holiday season, and you probably got a game group or other people that you play games with, and we're going to talk about not only small press RPGs, but also board and card games and other things that you might like for your geeky friends. I have a couple of friends with me, and then Ralph Mazza was invited, but due to technical difficulties, Ralph's not able to join us. But we do have some of his recommendations, and I'll share them with you in my best Ralph Mazza impression. I have no recollection of how he talks, so it's going to be horrible. But I do have a game creator, consumer, and all-around enthusiast who very much enjoys the tabletop hobby. Ben Gerber, how are you doing, Ben?
Good, Rich. Thanks for having me tonight.
And then a member of the Indie Plus leadership team, our very own Jen Martin. How are you, Jen?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm great. So before we get into just talking about products, right, I think it would be cool if we could talk a little bit about how is it that you shop for gamers? Like, what are some tips and tricks of how you do that?
Do we know the said gamers, or are these just random gamers online? Or, I mean, if it's somebody that I know, if somebody that I've gamed with before, or somebody whom I know what their hobbies and habits are, that makes it a lot easier because I know what they like, or I know what I like that they may like as well. And I'll just go off of that. If it's something a little bit more generic, like you're doing a Secret Santa thing online for some geek friends or whatnot, I've always found it's usually best to go off of a list that they have provided me, because I'm pretty damn good at picking out the exact thing they would never ever want to play and then sending it to them, unless they provide me something in the way of guidance. So that would be my advice: is ask, what do you like, what do you not like, and go from there.
Okay, that makes sense. I mean, getting a list is cool. Do you mostly, Ben? Do you mostly do stuff like online shopping, or do you try to find things that are out of the way?
Yes. Well, it depends, really. I try and do a little bit of both. I have a lot more success online, either just finding fairly common things that you can get anywhere. Occasionally, I'll go to my friendly local game store or try and ping somebody whom I just happen to know online from sort of being in the peripheries of this industry and tapping them for something as well.
Jen, what about you? What tips do you have for shopping for gamers?
Well, for my group of friends that I'm shopping for that I know, like I always start at the friendly local game store. Usually there's some new thing that they've got that we've maybe played a demo of or something, and yeah, so I usually start there. We spend a decent amount of time there too, so I want to patronize them. Patronize? Is that the right word? I feel like that's a bad word in context. Sorry.
I like patronizing gifts. I think that's good. So, question, and this you guys handle it how you wish. What about dollar limits? Like, what's a comfortable gift level for your game group, your immediate game group that you see on a weekly or bi-weekly basis?
Well, developing some indie RPG things. I mean, I'm sorry, Jen, do you want to go first? Go ahead.
No.
Okay. Or should I go?
Go first. You go first.
So, being sort of in the industry a little bit and developing these things, as you guys probably know, I'm fabulously wealthy, mostly made off of my RPG profits as sold through Drive-Thru RPG. So my limit for dollar amounts tends to be fairly low and fairly easygoing. I would rather not make my group stressed out. Hey, spend $10, spend $5, spend $15. You can get a PDF for $3. That's an amazing thing. Or you can go out and find me a book for $10, or find a little free 4-player board or card game for $10 or $12, and perfectly happy with that. I kind of enjoy saying, if you want to spend more than that, go nuts. But let's put the floor at like $10 or $15 and expect to get something for that amount. And if somebody wants to go out and buy me you know, the new Ogre game that just came out for $150, well, more power to them. I'm not going to say no, but I would never expect that to happen. You know, I'd be just as happy with a version of Love Letter that I don't have.
Jen, what about you?
Yeah, like I've struggled with this a little bit because I have some friends that kind of go nuts with me, and I can't afford to spend that much money on them. But I also, like, I remember, like, I love giving my friends presents that they like. So if I just remember that, okay, they can buy me whatever they want to buy me. I'm going to buy them something that, you know, shows that we're friends and how much I care about them and that stuff. Normally I try and do between about like $10 to $20 for like the main group, and then maybe a little bit more for the people that I'm super close with.
Cool. Jen, I'm going to stick with you. How about homemade crafty things or food? Like, what are your feelings on
that? Yeah. Before I started working again, I like made a cake and brought a cake to a game. Or like you can sew dice bags or do all sorts of crafty things. I made chainmail for a while, so everybody got little chainmail-y keyring things, I think. Yeah. Dice bags are awesome, right? Although the problem, right, is you get one that you really like, and then like people can give you new ones, and you're like, oh, thanks. I have one that works really well for me. Thank you. But
yeah, I've got mine over here. This is my dice bag. It's probably the only one I'll ever have that I actually use on a route. It's got belt loops, though. Ben, what about you? Crafty goods, home bake. What's that? How's that?
Well, I can't draw a straight line with a ruler. I can't sew. I tried the chainmail thing when I was in college, and it went horribly wrong, and there's a trip to the hospital. So I don't usually go in that direction either. But I can bake the crap out of some chocolate and make some really good gifts that way. The other thing that I can do as well is I'm fairly decent at writing, and I have a fairly large library of art that I purchase from other people that I can use in work. So I am certainly not above creating something custom for somebody that I know, say in the RPG community, where they may need a monster for their next adventure or encounter, something like that too. And I would rather spend a couple of hours either baking something or putting something like that together that they can actually use if I'm going to do something do-it-yourself, than coming up with some sort of craft, or my sort of other alternate do-it-yourself mode, which is pay somebody else to do it for me, and then give them whatever it was that this other person made for me. So.
Before we get into some actual gift suggestions along some cool categories, one last question. What's an absolute no-no? Like, what would you really avoid getting your gamer buddies?
You mind if I take this one? Go.
No, please do. Please do.
Excellent. Okay. If they really, really love Dungeons and Dragons, avoid Palladium. If they are really, really, really into gaming with their kids, avoid Zingo, because they probably have 7 copies of it already. Avoid all forms of Monopoly, particularly Pirate Monopoly, My Little Pet Shop Monopoly, or any other Monopoly that's based off of any other children's show, because it's all just Monopoly and it stinks.
Point.
Okay.
Yeah, Powerpuff Girls Monopoly is not the same, so that's exempted from that whole list.
I haven't personally had any experience with that, so I'll go with that. I'll take your suggestion and leave that on my list. If somebody is like a really hardcore RPG person, I tend not to go out and buy them the basic set for anything unless I know that they want it. If they've been playing board games for 50 years and collecting them, or for 15 years or for 10 years, I will probably not go to Target and buy them a board game because they probably have everything that's there. I'd be a lot happier giving them, say, a gift certificate to a store that they go to a lot or something along those lines.
Jen, you totally hit a thing I want to talk about. So gift certificates are cool?
Yeah, absolutely.
They are?
Yeah, in fact, like what I wouldn't buy somebody is like a board game that they hadn't either played or expressed any interest in, right? Even if it's a thing I think that they'll like, because like board games are expensive these days, and you know, I don't want to just be like, well, you like everything, you know, Cthulhu, so here's this. I mean, probably they may like it, but If they haven't specifically asked for it, I feel like a gift certificate is way safer.
Cool, cool. So, Jen, what's a no-no then?
D&D fit that. Shadowrun. Shadowrun's a no-no.
Oh, Jen.
I know.
How can you be so
We have to agree to disagree on Shadowrun, right?
Oh, you take delight.
It's got elves and machine guns.
Exactly.
Orcs with a K makes it next level good. So, first on a motorcycle, I'm pretty much happy as a pig in poop.
I don't like rolling more than 2d6 at a time.
Listen, there's a lot of like power fantasy and 2 fistfuls of dice. Ask Brian Macklin, because that was his whole
I was just going to say,
goal.
like, I have not played Mythunder yet. I've heard about it, though.
Sweet. All right. Well, thank you so much, guys. I feel a little bit wiser. I think let's knock down some ideas, some actual actionable product here. Some things that you are interested in sharing with everyone that I think will be kind of awesome. So I'm going to read for Ralph. But each of you will read the things that you've suggested, and Ben provided a few pictures that I'm going to try to screen share in case you want to look at it, but we are going to have links to all of these products in the YouTube page for this particular video, so don't fret. We'll have links to that, and we're not making anything off of this, right? If you don't want it, that's fine. I think Amazon links for most of them, but we don't. Darn it, we need to be an Amazon affiliate, Jen. Get on that. Okay, anyway. So first is the gifts for new gamers. These are people new to the hobby. Ben, we'll start off with you first, and then we'll go to Ken, and then we'll double up with Jen on the next one. So gifts for new gamers. What was the recommendation you made, sir?
Well, I'm more of a board gamer right now than I am an RPG person, because RPGs take several hours to really get into and enjoy, and I find myself just not having that time all the time to put something together or to join in. Having said that, I do play a lot of games with my family that are sort of trick-taking games. And earlier this year, Stronghold Games came out with this game called Diamonds by Mike Fitzgerald, who's a sort of a veteran game designer. This game is freaking awesome because it uses real fake diamonds, and it is a trick-taking game like Hearts. But what you have is you have a vault in front of you, an actual cardboard vault that's nearly impenetrable, and you're trying to get diamonds and shove them into your vault before other people get more than you. The thing that's good about it is that it comes with a nice sort of Art Deco kind of deck of cards and a bunch of these plasticky diamonds. Anybody who's ever played a card game will recognize all of these cards. Anybody who has ever heard of or seen Diamonds or watched the movie Blood Diamonds or something like that will notice they have these little plasticky things in there that sort of work around. It takes about 5 minutes to explain. During every single turn, everybody is doing something. Everybody takes a trick action, even sometimes during other people's turns or at the end. So people familiar with games like Hearts or with other trick-taking games will instantly get it. And hardcore gamers, they have the diamonds that they're sort of manipulating. They have their vaults. It's attractive to both ends. So you can play it with somebody who's never played a board game more advanced than, say, Monopoly in their lives, or you can play with hardcore gamers as well. It runs about 30-45 minutes, depending on how many people you're playing it with. I believe you can play with up to 6. It's just a fantastic game. So that's what I'm recommending.
Great. Jen, what about you? Gifts for new gamers.
I'm recommending Dungeon Roll, which was a Kickstarter that I missed, and I'm sad about that. But I have it now because they distributed to my local game store, which I think they've actually gotten into Barnes and Noble now. So I'm bad. Like, I don't know what style of game this is, but anyway, so you're rolling your different faces of dice. You're making your party. You're delving through different levels of the dungeon, and it's super fun. And it's really easy to learn. It's like 15 to 30 minutes, and I feel like it's a really light, easy to learn like intro into sort of fantasy gaming, and yeah, I'm a big fan. Plus, like 15 to 30 minutes, right? Like somebody's late to the gaming table, and it's like, okay, we're gonna play around.
I completely agree. There are some fantastic reviews, and I ended up buying that myself. I've played a few times with the family, and it's fun. I think
and my 6-year-old is getting into it, and like she beats me.
And look at the box. The box is awesome, too.
I know.
Show it one more time, Jen.
It's a treasure chest.
It's a treasure chest.
Yes.
You can't get cooler than that.
Yep.
That's so cool. Awesome. So from Ralph, we have a recommendation of, hey, for new gamers, try a licensed game around an IP you know that they're a fan of. There are plenty of those out there. And the new Star Wars Rebels show and upcoming movies, X-Wing is an obvious choice. The X-Wing miniatures game. I was at Barnes & Noble earlier tonight picking up a birthday card, and sure enough, there were some X-Wing miniatures. They're all over, so that's definitely worth a shot. So Jen, we'll stick with you and work to the next item on the list here, which is gifts for young gamers. And you mentioned that you've got a young daughter, so what would you get for her?
I did totally get for her Mermaid Adventures, the RPG. And like it's a super fun little game, and like my daughter is 6.5, right? Like I don't take her through a whole campaign or whatever. It's mostly just starting a story, right? But like I bought it originally because I have nostalgia for Littlest Mermaid because I'm that old. But like you have like sharks in there and like eels and all sorts of super fun characters. And like you have like there's I forget which character it is, but there's like a disabled mermaid or something, and so it's really cool. It's super inclusive.
Nice. Yes, I've also played the Mermaid Adventures. My son forced me to back the Kickstarter as soon as he saw the picture of the shark folk.
Of course he did.
What about you, Ben?
I'm gonna go with Hero Kids. My kids are 9 and 11. Recently, just turned 9. And while they're not as much into the role-playing game stuff, and I've run a couple of my own little things with them, Hero Kids is a really sort of all-inclusive, absolutely amazing 40-page PDF that you can basically dive right into. And it's tailor-made for kids. It's got some fairly simplistic mechanics, which means that nobody's getting bogged down in how many dice you roll and which charts you're going to look at. And if I roll 2d6 and I come over here and it's a Thursday on a full moon, then that means that this dragon over here, you don't have to worry about that. It's all really storytelling and empowering your players, who are kids, to do their best to solve a problem together. Which, playing with siblings is not always easy, but it tends to work in the system. So that's what I'm going with.
Ralph Moss's recommendation was King of Tokyo. King of Tokyo is a huge, crazy dice fest. It's a representation of kind of the King of the Hill type of, like the old game, and you're all giant kaiju monsters. So it's like Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla versus King Kong, and it's really super fun. I got to play a giganto game of it when I was at Gen Con a couple of years ago, and they had literally, like, I switched to me, there were characters like this biggish on the board.
Nice.
Super fun. So that's a great game and a great suggestion from Ralph. I would say that if I had to throw something out there looking over at my shelf, I would recommend Golden Sky Stories. Golden Sky Stories is a beautiful book, and it's a really fun little game. It's a super simple RPG where it's based around each of the characters being effectively like talking animal people. They go and help each other and help regular stupid humans like us. So that's a super cool game. So let's stick with you, Ben, and the next category that we have here is gamers who have everything.
So you remember earlier where I said I'd have somebody else do it yourself and then give it to me and then I could give that to somebody else? Well, I'm going to kind of stick with that theme here. I'm a huge fan of the X-Wing miniatures game that was mentioned earlier. The problem that I have with that game is that they haven't produced every single ship in the expanded universe or ever seen for at least 2.7 seconds on a screen somewhere having to do with Star Wars. The answer to this burning problem in the industry is to go to a place called Shapeways. And if you go to Shapeways, there are several people there who are producing X-Wing scale models, 1/270th scale, for just about anything you have ever seen in the Star Wars universe, or haven't seen, or have only read about in, book 37 from this peripheral series that came off of the main canon, off of the actual series. They don't generally come painted, so if you're handy with a paintbrush and have a miniature setup, that may be something useful as well. But you can get your friends who might be into this game, or just into Star Wars in general, some absolutely amazing 3D printed models of ships that they're not going to find anywhere else. So that's what I'm going for the gamer who has absolutely everything.
Cool. And Jen, I kind of stole your answer a little bit by asking you about this before, but go ahead. What would you recommend?
Well, yeah. So gift certificates to the local game shop, right? My other recommendation is like a gift certificate for Steam, right? Because we're gamers. We like to play all sorts of games, and Steam, like I'll get to a point where like I forget that I'm playing games on Steam. And then they'll email me and be like, oh, these things on your wish list are on sale. And I'm like, oh, I must go and buy all the things now. So, yeah, that's usually a safe bet.
Nice, nice. I used to get gift certificates to Indie Plus Revolution for people, and I've done it for Drive-Thru RPG as well. Ralph Mazza's recommendation was All Rolled Up. So any dedicated role player already has a pretty cool dice bag. We already talked about that. But do they have an all rolled up dice bag? Room for not just dice, but index cards, enough pencils for your whole group, a small notebook, or your noteboard, which we may hear about in a minute, with a bunch of AV pens. Custom fabric options ensure the gamer who has everything absolutely won't have this. So, pretty cool. Thing there. So let's see. What is the next category? The next category after the gamer who has everything is things. So along with the games, what's some kind of stuff or peripherals? We'll start with you, Ben. What would you recommend?
Well, I'm going to actually ask Jen for some help on this one. The thing that I would recommend is something that is absolutely awesome. It's called a noteboard. Yeah, there we go.
Yay!
The person who created this. I inadvertently stole this idea from Jen as well. I managed to jump on here before she had a chance. What it basically is it's a whole bunch of note cards laminated together. What that gives us, though, is as designers, as game masters, as people running in a game, as writers, authors, is an absolutely amazing tool that you can quite literally shove in the back pocket of your jeans and walk around with. It folds up into a 3.5 by 5 inch note card size pile, and then you open it up. It can be a map because it is scored with hexes and whatnot. Not hexes, with squares. It can be a prototype game board. It can be anything you need it to be. And it's dry erase, which means that you can just erase the damn thing when you're done with it and start over. I personally use it all the time when I'm developing new card games or board games, because rather than put together this cheesy-looking thing, with some Sharpies on a piece of paper and telling people who are helping me test this thing out, oh, imagine this 5 times bigger, or imagine this in 2 pieces or whatnot. Pull this thing out, write on it, put a bunch of cubes on it, boom, you're done. If you need to change something, you just erase it and move on. Same thing with the dungeon. You want to reveal your dungeon a little bit at a time, but you can just draw it as you're going. If you don't actually have a dungeon in front of you, or a map or what have you, and you want your players to think that you've come up with this thing ahead of time, you can use the same tactic. You can just sort of draw it as you go. Your players will never be the wiser, I guarantee it. So this thing has been around for a while. It's like $13, $13.50 off the website. It's incredibly cheap. It's a pretty awesome thing to give to somebody who is involved in any portion of our hobby, even writing. You write columns of ideas down, draw arrows, do what you need to do. When you're done with that portion of it, erase it and start again. So I'm going with the noteboard.
Nice. Jen, what about you? What are some things? What's a thing?
Yeah, so the thing that I put in there are these super cute little crystal gem counters, which I recently purchased the book of the RPG game Apillion, which calls for like a bunch of little gem things. And I was like, hey, these are little, and now I want to buy them. Now, you were like, oh, the gift you want to receive, and I want to just copy that again. A little plastic gem hoard, right? Because we always need counters.
We do. We often do. All right, so from Ralph, and I do want to warn you, that the letter forms dry erase notebook, while it looks super keen, I am seeing that it's out of stock when I went to the website. But it's a dry erase notebook, useful for GMs and players to make notes. There are a few varieties out there, but his favorite is letter forms that erases clean without ghosting and is even forgiving of the times someone will inevitably grab a Sharpie instead of a dry erase pen. I've never been guilty of that.
I have a trick for that.
You do? What's your trick?
I do. Okay. So on a dry erase board, if you ever accidentally use a Sharpie, let it dry, give it a little bit of time, draw over it with a dry erase marker. You will then be able to wipe the Sharpie clean. Sometimes you have to repeat it 2 or 3 times if the Sharpie's been on it for like a month or a year. But then you can like draw like a semi-permanent grid and dry erase everything, dry erase, but then you can still get the Sharpie off by coloring over it.
Oh man, that beats what happened last time I did that. I went over the entire thing with whiteout.
That sounds really dumb.
Yeah, that's me.
Okay, great. That's awesome. I'll stick with you, Jen. What's something that you'd like to receive?
Yeah, that's the section I didn't answer.
No.
Yeah, I mean, apart from the super cute little plastic gem things, I actually it piggybacks on an answer that I have coming. Is just people like running games for me, or playing games that I want to play. I have a tiny house, and I have usually enough income that the stuff that I want, I don't want my friends to buy me like a Nintendo DS. It's just too much money, right? So it's like, don't buy me anything. Just come over and we'll have dinner and run a game and it'll be awesome. That's what I like.
Cool. So Ralph's answer to the gift you want to receive is he said he pretty much has everything, and if you've ever followed him on Google+, he backs all the Kickstarters. His updates are amazing. If you ever want to find out about project progress, it's pretty cool. So what he wants is a chance to play all the stuff he already has. Rather have folks make time to come play a game we already own than spend the money to buy more games, which also has the advantage of being effectively free. Pretty cool. I received one Christmas from a very thoughtful friend, a series of coupons that said that I will play X, Y, or Z game with you, and then listed out some of the games that I had whined I never could find enough people to get to the table. And that was super cool. What gift would you like to receive, Ben?
I want to change my answer to Ralph's answer. Giving somebody the ability to do the thing that they love the most in their hobby world, playing a game, designing a game, sitting around and spending time with them, doing something they enjoy, that's pretty amazing. So I would absolutely take that. The other thing I would take is, because my friendly local game store isn't all that local, it can be somewhat of a trek to get out there. I'd love a gift certificate to Amazon because I can get anything that I need on there pretty much, starting with games and ending, with socks and sneakers and what have you. It's a perfect all-around gift for me, and I know lots of people are sort of moving into that mode as well. But given the choice now, I think I'd rather just have Ralph come over and play some games with me.
Nice. Now, we already talked about DIY gifts earlier, so I'm going to skip down to the last category, and then we'll start to wrap this up. And this is the cheapies, right? The stuff that's free or pay what you want. Really don't have that kind of money, but you'd like to get something that at least shows, hey, I thought of you. So we'll start with you, Jen. What would you recommend on the cheapie side?
So the one that I have linked is a supplement for the Heroine RPG game, which if you follow me on G+, you've heard me talk about a little bit. Anytime anyone asks me what game is my favorite right now, it's Heroine. So there's the expansion in Japan of Heroine in Hyanyanko. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. I apologize. But it gives you a whole new setting and new challenges and new obstacles, and it's super beautiful. So, and pay what you want. Oh my God.
Yeah, take a look at that. That was by Andy Kikowski, who's a pretty cool dude. So that's very cool. Mm-hmm. All right, what about you, Ben?
Well, Drive-Thru RPG has a whole section of either free or pay what you want products. And I just want to touch on the pay what you want aspect of it for a real brief second before we go into something that's actually not pay what you want, but it's fairly cheap and is my pick. As somebody who has stuff on there that is pay what you want, don't be afraid as a consumer or as somebody who's looking for a gift for somebody to pay nothing. We want people to pay zero for these things. We wouldn't have made them available for people to purchase for $0. Personally, and speaking for a lot of other folks that I know in the industry that I've talked to, we're much more happy to have somebody have our products in their hands and using them than we are to make $1 or $3 off a drive-thru RPG. So if you're in need of a gift that is a cheapy gift, go on to drive-thru RPG, find a ton of stuff on that is pay what you want, pay $0, and then maybe if you really are impressed with what that person has done, go back later, buy another product and pay $5, or what have you. But my pick for cheap games, inexpensive games, is a $5 game on drive-thru RPG called G-Core. It's by Dilly Green Bean Games. A guy named Jay Libby produced this. He's probably one of the hardest working indie RPG guys I know in the industry, in that he turns out, on the average, about a book every month, maybe a little bit faster than that. G-Core is a modern take on the old Marvel superheroes, the phase rip system, and it's absolutely super accessible. You spend your $5 for these PDFs, you're going to get a ton of stuff, some adventures to run, a special card that you get with it, a Game Master screen, everything that you can print out. You can run a year and a half's worth of gaming, meeting weekly with your friends, using what you're going to spend these $5 on. I think it's an amazing gift, and it's one of the systems that I really enjoy that I just don't think gets a lot of press out there, so I wanted to turn people onto G-Core. I think it's a great system.
Cool. Let's see. So I'm going to read Ralph's recommendation. A host of stuff. All the Things by Levi Cornelson. He's got situation generators, which I have purchased. Mechanisms for tabletop role-playing. Infected, which is an ongoing game he's updating about zombie apocalypse, because zombies are super hot nowadays. It's got a series of slick RPG tools and some full RPGs, all recently updated with sweet new art style, and all pay what you want. So that's a great recommendation. And then I'm going to real quick just jump on my hobby horse, because I can't say the word free without recommending what I think is maybe the greatest free game I've ever played, and that is Lady Blackbird. Lady Blackbird is a teeny tiny PDF. It's like 16 pages. I have run it probably 30 different times for 30 different groups, and I've always had a fantastic time. I even kicked a few bucks to John Harper, the creator, just because I love the game so very much. That wraps up all of the stuff that we listed. Hopefully you have found some things that you might like or got some advice. I really appreciate the time that Ralph Mazza spent, and I'm sorry he couldn't join us, but thank you both, Ben and Jen. Thank you both so much for helping us out with this gamer gift guide for Indie Plus.
Thank you.
All right, and so if you liked what we had here and you are not already subscribed to our YouTube channel, Jen is going to point to the correct direction, because Rich will always... Okay, so Jen is pointing to the presenting Jen. That is where you want to go. There's the button, so you can subscribe to
Indie Plus.
Yes, give us anything else that we should be telling them, Jen, that I want to make sure.
No, it'll say Indie Plus, and you hover over it, and there's a little subscribe button right there. It's super easy on all of our videos.
Thank you so much. All right, well, everyone have a happy holidays, and enjoy Thanksgiving, which is coming up, and then, of course, all of the holidays around the December time frame, whichever one you honor or cherish or enjoy. And thank you so much for watching us tonight.